This is Gemara in Kesubos Daf Mem. We're holding in the bottom of Lamed Tes Amid Beis, 6 lines into the wide lines, about 8 lines from the bottom of the Amid. The first one in the line is Ma'akiv. Says the Gemara, Tanya Idach, quoting a brayso, which is a similar discussion that we concluded in the previous year. Even though when someone violates a woman forcefully, you have to pay right away. Then what do you have to pay? The kanas. What is the kanas? Hopefully by now we know. The entire parak has been discussing 50 shekel kesef, 50 coins. But when you send her away, meaning when you divorce her, who ain't I love klum? You don't pay anything. There's no din ksuba. Ksuba is a regular marriage, regular divorce, says the Gemara. But if someone violates a woman, all he has to pay her is the 50 shekel kesef, and there's no din ksuba. Ask the Gemara, Kisha Yaitse, when you divorce her, are you able to divorce her? What do you mean? We know that the halacha is that you have to marry her, and you have to stay married to her lo'elam when one violates a woman. So how can you tell me that you're divorcing her? Answers the Gemara, Ema kishetitze he, when she leaves, Ema klum. She's allowed to leave. She wants to get out of the marriage, she's allowed. That is the case that there is no ksuba. Meis, says the Gemara, what happens if the person who violates his girl dies? Yatsa. Kesef kanasa biksubasa. She does not get a ksuba. Her money of the kanas is in lieu, is in pay, satisfies the ksuba. Rav Yosi, Rav Yudaimer, he argues on everything we said today. Yesh la ksuba mana. No, this girl gets a ksuba. Ask the Gemara, Ma'aika Mifliki, what exactly is this machlekes? Rabban and Savri, the Rabbanan hold the Tanakam holds that there is no ksuba. Why? Taima mai takin Rabban ksuba. Fundamental. What is the reason why you get a ksuba? We're here 38 days into Kesubos, and we finally understand. Actually, I pick above. We had this Gemara in the beginning of the Masechta as well, but we're reminded what is the reason of a ksuba? So it's not easy to divorce a woman. Says the Gemara, so in this case, since you're not able to divorce the woman, there's no reason for the ksuba. That's the reason that if there's an eventual divorce, there's no ksuba, you just pay the kanas. But is Rav Yehuda, what does he hold? Why does he hold there is the ksuba? Savar, beautiful. Hanami, in this case also, there's a way you could get out. What do you mean? Mitzayir law, he could treat her like not nice, he could be mitzayer. Till she leaves. So it's true, he is not allowed to divorce her. So therefore says the Tanakama, no reason to pay the ksuba, because all ksuba is to protect the woman. Says Rav Yehuda, we still need to protect her, because he could treat her in a way to make her want to leave the marriage. Therefore, there's still going to be a ksuba in this case. We continue. Oines, we said in the Mishnah, that what's the halacha? The oines drinks literally from his pot, meaning they have to stay married, whereas Mefate, if someone seduces her, then he's allowed to divorce her. Amle Rava Miparzakil or Ravashi Michti, let's understand what's going on over here. Michti cover be'adayal dui. Both halachas, the halacha of pitoy, the halacha of oines, the halacha of seduction, the halacha of forceful relations of rape are learnt one from each other. So ask the Gemara on the top of Memo and Aleph La Milsa Nami Lignu Me'adaldi. So for this regard, we should also learn them from each other. Why they have different halachas? Amar Kra explains the Gemara, Mar Yimrenu loy liisha loy midai toy. It says with regard to pitoy that he gives her, he has to pay her to be a wife for him. Loy, to be a wife, which means midai toy. Then in the case of pitoy is a different din that it's only if he wants to marry her, whereas by oines he is forced to. Ketzad, says the Gemara, Sheisa Ba'atzitza, and the Gemara now explains, Amar Rav Kana, Amrita L'Shemaita Kamid Rav Zvin Min Hardoi, Neisi Asei, Min Echalois Asei. Asks, I don't understand. We said in the Mishnah, unless she's forbidden. If she's a woman, for example, a mamzeris, which is asr lava legal, then if a man is ma'anis her, he does not have to marry her because she's forbidden. Ask him, I don't get it. Asay, doich elois asay. This man has an asay. What's the positive commandment to marry this girl? There is a lois asay, a negative commandment saying she's asr, she's a mamzeris. So let the classical asay be doich elois asay and let her be forced to marry her. Amar Alei answers Rav Kahana. When do we say that? When there's no other choice. That if there's saras on the makkah mila, therefore the only way to give this kid a mila is by cutting off the tsaras, is by violating the negative commandment. Then we say that the positive commandment asay overrides and pushes off the negative commandment. But over here, is it the same? There is a way for her to get out. The same way, if she doesn't want to get married, if she says, I do not want to be married, so since it's not absolute, it's not ironclad, it's not every single case is a way to circumvent the asay, therefore the rules of asay do not apply. If it's on a makkah mila, the only way to do the asay, the positive commandment of not shechting, of giving the kid a mila, is by cutting off the tzaras. Then we say, I say. But over here, since there's another way to get around it, meaning if she wouldn't want to get married, they would not. Therefore, we do not apply the rules of asay dechaloi sasei. Says the Mishnah, Mem Amar Aleph, Yisaymish and Nisarsav and Niskarsha. If we have a Yisayma who had Erisin and then had Gerishin, and after that, she's a girl with no parents, no father, she does engagement, Erisin, then she gets divorced, then someone violates her, says the Mishnah, says Rav Elazar, if it was Oines, he is Chayiv, if it is Pito, he is Pater. Amar Rabbi Rachana Rabbi Yechon Rabbi Elazar B'Shita Rabbi Kiva Rabbi Amar. The din in the Mishnah is going within the sheet of Rabbi Kiva. The Amar Yesh La Kenas Ukenas Alatzma. Rabbi Kiva says, in the case of Yisayma, who gets the Kenas? She gets it herself. That is where the din of the Mishnah comes from. Mimai, says the Gemara, from where do we know that Rabbi Elazar is going like Rabbi Kiva is Rabbi? Midiktani Yisayma, for the fact that the Mishnah said, a Yisayma, Rabbi Elazar Rainis Chayvan Vata Potter, Yisayma Pshita. Of course, it's obvious that this is the halacha of a Yisayma. It's obvious that if you did pitoy, you're pater, because she has no father to pay to. Elah kamashla, you know what the chiddush is? The nairash and his arsav and his karsha. Ki Yisayma. That's the chiddush. If you have a girl with a father, but she gets erisin, every time you have erisin, you're leaving your father's rishos, so she gets erisin, and then she gets gerishin. The halacha is she's like a Yisayma. My Yisayma la'atzma avnayrish and his arsa, and therefore v'nizkar shalatzma. And on this, Amar Rav Zera says Rav Zera, Amar Rav Shilam, Rav Nuna Sabam, Rav Adab, Rav Amar Rav. Halachic Rav Elazar, we're passing like our Mishnah. The most fortunate, the wise of the Chachamim, and we're going to paskin like this did in the Mishnah. And we continue with another Mishnah on the bottom of Mem Amud Aleph. Ezehu Baishes. Now we're going to go to all the different payments that are necessary in a case where someone violates a woman. He has to pay Baishes. What is humiliation? It depends on him, it depends on her. If she's a chash of a girl, if she's a princess, she has more humiliation from being violated. If he's a chash of guy, there's less humiliation, and that is the balance to figure out what is the din of busha, pigam, what is depreciation, how do you figure that out? We view her as if she is a maidservant that is sold in the marketplace. How much was she worth before she was violated? How much is she worth now? That difference is the payment that the man has to make that violates her. Kenas, the third payment, Shaveh b'chol adam, is equal for everyone, as we know. That's the entire parak, which is 50 shekel kesef. And the Mishnah concludes with the rule: any time that we find that midaraisa there's a set amount, then it's shaveh, it's equal to all people. So says the Gemara, what was din number one in the Mishnah was going through all the other payments, pigam, depreciation, boishes, humiliation. Asks the Gemara a question we've seen recently. Maybe you should just have to pay the 50 shekel kesef and nothing else. How do you know? You also pay pagam, you also pay baishes, you pay humiliation, you pay depreciation. How do you know? Amar Rav Zera Svara. Yomru, you're going to tell me, Baal bas malacha chamishim, Baal bas hedyot chamishim. It's the same thing. If someone goes and sleeps with the princess, the daughter of the king, you only have to pay her 50, and the same thing for a mere commoner? How could that be? Abaye retorts, yeah, maybe. We have a similar halacha by an Eved. We have a similar halacha by an Eved that if someone's ox killed an Eved, you have to pay the owner of that Eved shleishim shekel kasef. So says the Gemara, I don't understand. There's different avodim. You can have an avodim that does menial labor. You can have an Eved that does chashav labor. And yet we know you pay the same thing. So you're asking me, how do you know? It makes no sense that the kinas is the same for a bas malachim and a hedyot for the princess and the commoner. Maybe, yeah. Just like we find by avodim, it's the same amount. Explains the Gemara. Memam Rebbeis, the top line, Ela Amar Rav Zera, Ilu Baal Leo Shnayim. Another svara. Says Rav Zera, what would happen if two people violated this girl? Echad kedarka, v'echad shaloi kedarka. One in the normal manner, and one is shaloi kedarkai from the backside. And what do you do now? And Taisus points out that it's actually the sequence of events is a bit backwards, that it was first shaloi kedarkai, and then it was kedarkai. Two people violated this girl. Yaimru, are you going to tell me, Baal Shlema Chamishim, Baal Peguma Chamishim? Is it the same payment? One of them that violated this girl, she was a shalim, she was a perfect girl that never had relations. The other one violated a girl that was previously violated. So you're going to tell me it's the same payment? That makes no sense. So similarly, says the Gemara, we should say the same thing by us, that the payment, the busha, the pegam, should not always be the same. We should take into consideration the context of the event. So Amar Le Abaye says Abaye, well, again, the similar kasha. Yachi Gabi Evan Ami Amar Evan Bari Shleima Shleishim Evan Muka Shleishim. The same thing. If one's ox kills an Evan, that's a whole Evan. An ox that has, a slave that has boils, it should be the same thing. Also makes no sense. And yet we know that is halacha. So Ela Amar Abaye. So again, Rav Zera tried svara, logic. Elo Amar Abaye, I'll tell you where we learn it from. Amar Kra Tachas Asheina. It says in the pasuk with regard to Nasan Lavia Naira, one has to pay the father of the girl that he violates Chamisha Shekel Kasef, and the pasuk concludes, why? Tachas Asheina, because he violated, he afflicted her. Hani Tachas Asheina Mechlal Di Ikabash Begam. From the pasuk itself, it says you pay the 50 shekel kasef. Why? Because you violated her. So from the pasuk itself, it seems that there's other payments. Because the violation is one, there's other payments as well of Baishta Begam. Rav Amar, another teretz, Amar Krav, you have to give for lying with her 50 kasef. Hanas Shchivanon. The hana, the enjoyment of lying with her, you have to pay 50, that's the fine. But there's other payments as well, the Baishtan Begam, and that's where you have to pay her. Not only the Knas, but also Baishtan Begam. Ask the Gemara, Ve'ema Ladida, new kasha. Fine. So you pay 50 shekel Knas. You pay Baishas depreciation, you pay Begam depreciation. Says the Gemara, but how do you know humiliation, depreciation, Baishas and Begam gets paid to the father? Maybe she herself collects that. True. When it comes to the Knas, that the pasuk that explicitly V'nos Lavi Anaira. Fine. But maybe the Baishas and Begam, the humiliation and depreciation should go to the girl itself. Says the Gemara, about 10 lines down, first one in line is Ve'ima, Benureha Be'izaviyah. And from here we learn out, Kol Shevach Neureha Le'aviyah. All the prophets, while she is an Naira, goes to her father, so father collects all payments. Velahad, Amaravun Amarav asked the Gemara, Menayin Shemaisa Bas Levi, how do we know that the earnings of the daughter go to the father? Shnemar, Chim Karesh as Bitay Lama, if a man sells his daughter as a maidservant, Ma'ama Maisiyadel Rabba, Bas Maisiyadel Aviyah, just like a maidservant, everything goes to the master, so to the daughter, everything goes to the father. So ask Ravun Amarav, Lamali, why do you need this pasuk tape? You just told me we have a limit, we have a source. Teach me that everything goes to the father. So why do we need a different drush of Chiyim Karesh as B'itay? Ella explains the Gemara, Hiba Fars the Dar Mudachsev. We must say that Binurel Beis Aviyah is not talking about the earnings, rather just talking about a different day in the din of Afaris Nedarim. You could undo the vows that the girl has done, and therefore ask the Gemara, how do we know that Boishes and Pagam goes to the father? Maybe it goes to the girl herself. Maybe learn from it. You can learn out from Esther. Again, so how do we know that Boishes and Pagam goes to the father? Maybe it should go straight to the daughter. Says the Gemara, Mistavra, it's a logical reason. Why? Just like the father has the ability to marry off this girl, his daughter, to a menuvel, to a disgusting person, or to one who's full with boils, and based off of that, he can marry her off to this guy via Tashmish, the 3 ways of getting married, Kesef, Shtar, and Bia. He can marry her off via Bia, and the father would get the money of the Kedushin. So too, the fine, the Peoishes and Began, will go to the father. Says the Gemara about the 2 dots of 15 lines down of Memo and base. Pigam, how do you evaluate depreciation? It goes by how much she would have been sold in the marketplace, etc. Says the Gemara, how do we evaluate it? Amar V'udishmol. We evaluate. How much would you pay for a shivcha who was a virgin who never had relations to a shivcha who was a ba'ula? Says the Gemara, L'shamshoi, to serve him. You're buying a maidservant to serve you, to clean your dishes, to dust the counters, and to do the floors. Why do you care if she's a bula or not? Says you're right. The difference is you're marrying your off to your Eved. Well, Eved might not have. Why do you care so much about your Eved? Says the Gemara, the case that we're talking about is if one has an Eved that he cares a lot about, he likes the Eved. So now he's buying a maidservant he's going to marry off to that Eved. Now it makes a difference whether the maidservant is a Ba'ula, she had relations, or a Basula. That's the way to calculate the value between this girl when she was a Ba'ula to a Basula. Says the Mishnah, last of Mishnah today, halfway down, member of a base, Kol Makom Sheyesh Mecher in Kanas, Kol Makom Sheyesh Kanas in Mecher. Seesaw. Mecher and Kanas. For one to sell his daughter as a slave, Kanas if she gets violated. If there's Mecher, there's no Kanas. If there's Kanas, there's no Mecher. And now the Mishnah explains even further. Kitana, a girl under the age of 12, Yeshla Mecher, Vein la Kanas. You could sell her, but if she gets violated, you don't get money. Naira, as we saw from the beginning of the Parek, a Naira, a girl from 12 to 12 and a half, Yesh la Kanas, Vein la Mecher, you can't sell her. Haboy Geres, when she's 12 and a half, Vein la Mecher, Veloy Kanas. So very simple equation, Mecher and Kanas are inversely related. When there's Mecher, there's no Kanas. When there's Kanas, there's no Mecher. A little girl, till the age of 12, you could tell her, you do not get the fine. At the age of 12, you get the fine, you cannot tell her. By Geres, when she's 12 and a half, nothing. Says the Gemara, Rav Yudah, Rav Zudivi, Rameir. The Mishnah is very simply the opinion of Rameir. Of Chachamim argue, and I mean they say each like Kanas Mecher. You get both. So Rameir had this inverse relationship. They see so between Mecher, selling her, and getting the fine, the Kanas. The Chachamim disagree and say they go hand in hand. Titania, as we learned in a Braisa. Kitana mibas yemechad ba'ad shtevi shtei Cyrus. Kitana, from 1 day old until she brings shtei Cyrus, till she becomes a gedayla. Yesh la mecher, vein la kanas. Again, this seesaw, you could sell her, you don't get to kanas. Mishatevi shtei Cyrus, that she debugger. Sorry, I said gedayla. When she breaks 2 Cyrus, this is what naira from the age of 12 until 12 and a half. Yesh la kanas, now you get to kanas for vein la mecher. Divir Rameir, very simply, that's Rameir, Shei Rameir, Oimer, Kol makom sheish mecher, ein kanas, Kol makom sheish kanas, ein mecher. V'chachamim, they argue, not from 1 day old, from 3 years old and 1 day vachati bugger until 12 and a half. Yesh le kanas, you collect the kanas, period. Says the Gemara, kanas in mecher loy? You're telling me that a 5-year-old girl, you collect a fine if someone violates her, but you're not allowed to sell her? Says the Gemara, no. That's the sheet of a chacham. So the entire paragraph we've been discussing right now has always been Rameir, that a naira, the kanas, is only at age 12 to 12 and a half, and that's when you cannot sell her. The chachamim hold from age 3, you could sell her, and you get kanas. Amar Rav Chisda, my time with the Rameir, where did Rameir get this din from? Amar Krav loy tiyeh liisha b'mehave atzma kasam medaber. From the fact that the pasuk says v'loy tiyeh liisha, the pasuk says that she should be for you to a wife. That is where Rameir learns out from there that it's talking about a girl that could get married, and therefore it's talking about a girl who's not a ketana but rather a naira. V'Rabbanan Amar Reish Lakish Amar Kra naira, full with the hay. Afilu ketana b'mash. Excuse me, it's written naira without a hay. Afilu ketana mash, but it's even referred to a ketana. Says Reish Lakish that there's a kenas even why a ketana. Shama Rav Papa B'Reid Rav Chanan Mibei Keluches. Rav Papa from Rav Chanan Mibei Keluches heard Rav Shlokish just explained. Azal Amra Kamed Rav Sim Barashi came from Rav Sim Barashi Amar Lei Aton Ahomas Nitan La. You learned from over there. Ano Ahomas Nitan La. Anan. This is how we learn. Amar Reish Lakish Ha'amoiti Shem Ral Ketana Potter. A similar halacha. If someone lets out a bad name that a girl was had illicit relationships as a ketana, you don't have to pay any money. Shenemar v'nosla via naira mole dibra akasav. And this pasuk says naira in full, teaching me that the din of mighty shemra is only on a naira. Maskler of Adavarava time to go a naira. Holav hachi ava mina vilu ketana. You would tell me that you have a havamina. You would think that Mighty Shemra applies to Ketana. V'Ksiv the pasuk says in Ma'emes Hayadavar Hazel Lenimsu Besulin Lenaira V'Itzias Lenaira Bezalei Zaviyah V'Seglua V'Ketanim La Bazayin Shem. And clearly can't be talking about a Ketana because the pasuk concludes you're going to get Skilahi. Ella, the last line, Kanaira Kol Makish Nemanar. Afilu Ketana Mashma. This pasuk is talking about a naira. You're right, but any time it says without the is Afilu Ketana Mashma. That's machlokes the Chachamim and Rameir, and that is going to be the din of the Mishnah like Rameir, whereas the Chacham are going to argue that there's mecher and kinas even at a young age of a ketana. Pick it up for the new Mishnah the next year. B'siyata Dishmaya.